All right. So hello, everyone who is joining us right now. My name is Nick VanAcker, and I am the Science on a Sphere coordinator at the Michigan State University Museum. And I'm very excited to be joining you for a program today about World Sea Turtle Day. So June 16th is World Sea Turtle Day. So we're going to be talking all about sea turtles and other turtles that we can find right here in Michigan. We're going to wait just a couple of minutes to get started. I see people are slowly trickling in, so we'll wait just a minute before we share any of the really cool information, so nobody misses anything. But yeah, we'll wait just a couple of minutes and then we can jump into World Sea Turtle Day. If you guys do have any questions or comments throughout the program today, you can feel free to leave those in the chat, which is located right here on the screen. You can also send those through the Q&A, and we've got Stephanie on the call who's going to be helping me manage those questions. So we'll make sure to get all of those questions answered for you. All right. So to those of you who are just joining us, I'll repeat myself. My name is Nick VanAcker. I am the Science on a Sphere coordinator here at the Michigan State University Museum. And I'm really excited to be talking to you all today about World Sea Turtle Day. It is June 16th, and that is World Sea Turtle Day all the way across the world. So today we are going to be talking all about sea turtles and also some Michigan turtles. We're going to be using Science on a Sphere, which is located here at the museum in the Science on a Sphere gallery to talk about sea turtles. I've also got some cool turtle specimens right here in front of me that we will be able to check out. But it looks like our numbers have leveled off. I think everybody who's here, who's going to be here. So with that, we can get started. So like I've been saying, as we've been introducing this program, it is June 16th, which is World Sea Turtle Day. And so we are going to be talking today all about turtles. I've got some great specimens here in front of me looking at some Michigan turtles and also some fossil turtles. And then we'll be looking at some data sets on Science on a Sphere to look at sea turtles and sea turtle migrations, which should be really fun. But before we look at the data sets on Science on a Sphere, before we start talking about sea turtles, we have to answer kind of a big question. And it might be a question that you don't even realize that you have at this point. But that question is, what exactly is a turtle? And it seems like kind of a silly question, but the deeper you dig into it, the more interesting this question is. So turtles, and I've got a couple of different types of turtles right here, just a couple of different models of turtles. Turtles are a type of reptile. And most of us should be familiar with what a reptile is. A reptile is a cold-blooded animal. It has scaly skin, usually lays eggs. But turtles are reptiles that have shells. So I have a turtle shell right here. This is a painted turtle shell. And this turtle shell is from a turtle that actually lives right here in Michigan. We can see painted turtles all the time in our ponds, rivers, streams. And turtle shells are really, really, really cool. They're pretty unique in the animal kingdom. There's only a couple of animals throughout all of history that have had shells like this. Turtle shells are very important to turtles because they act like a form of protection. And we're used to seeing this when you see a cartoon or a video of a turtle. We're used to seeing these turtles use these shells as a protective coat of armor. So these turtles will tuck their heads and their arms and their legs all the way into their shell to protect themselves. But the shell is actually really special for more than just that. And that's because the shell is a modified part of the turtle's body. It's actually a part of the body that we have as well that isn't modified. So I'm going to flip this painted turtle shell around to show you guys what a turtle shell looks like on the bottom. And I'll get it right up close to the camera here. And so you guys might be able to see that there's kind of this bony line that runs down the middle of the shell right here. And this is actually the turtle's spine. So the turtle's spine runs right down the back of the shell. And you can see that the shell is fused to the spine with all of these different bones. And so these bones are very, very special. They're a modified type of bone that we actually have as well. They're a modified rib cage. So on us, we have a rib cage right up here inside of our chest. And the rib cage is really important for protecting, right? For protection. So inside of our rib cage, we've got a lot of our squishy organs that are really important for keeping us alive. We've got our heart, we've got our lungs, we've got our stomach, part of our liver. And so all these squishy organs that are really important to keeping us alive need to be protected in case we get hit or in case we fall over. That rib cage is going to protect those squishy bits from being hurt or bruised. And so the turtle's rib cage, the modified rib cage that is the shell, is also really important for protecting the turtle's squishy insides. But the turtle, like I said, has modified this to the point that they're actually able to protect almost their entire body. Most turtles are able to tuck in their heads and their arms. And so they use that rib cage to protect their entire situation. And it's really crazy. The longer that you think about it, imagine trying to squeeze your head or your arms or your legs inside your tiny rib cage. That would be crazy and it would not be very comfortable. But it's a really, really cool adaptation that turtles have to be able to do this with their rib cage. One interesting thing as well is that if the shell is a modified rib cage for the turtles, you can see that their spine is right back here. Some people have the misconception that turtles can actually leave their shell. And this is not the case. Turtles are not able to leave their shell. The shell is a part of their body. So if you see a turtle shell that does not have a turtle in it that looks like this, it means that the turtle inside is no longer with us. A turtle can't just leave its shell on the side of the road to go find a new one. Some animals can, but turtles cannot. So that's some cool facts about the turtle shell. One final thing that's really interesting about the turtle shell, again, with it being a part of the turtle's body, is that turtles can actually feel through their shell. So if you were to touch a turtle, kind of stroke a turtle on the back, the turtle can feel that, which is really important when you're thinking about handling turtles. If you're helping a turtle across the road, you want to be very gentle with the turtle because even though the shell feels really hard, the turtle can feel everything that's happening to its shell. Now, one last thing that we have to talk about when we're talking about what exactly a turtle is another group of animals that are covered in shells. And you guys might know this type of animal. There's another type of animal that looks very, very similar to turtles that has a shell as well, and those are tortoises. And people get confused all the time about the difference between turtles and tortoises. And in fact, there isn't really a difference between the two of them. So you might think that they're two separate groups, but all tortoises are actually turtles. So if you look at a turtle, what we consider a turtle, if you look at a tortoise, all of those different types of animals are actually all considered turtles. Tortoises, usually the distinction is that tortoises tend to spend their time on land. They're animals that we would call terrestrial. And terrestrial animals are just animals that spend their time on land. So that would be animals like us, cows, dogs, most snakes, for instance, are all terrestrial animals, which means they spend their time on the ground. Now, those are the animals we typically think of called tortoises. Animals that we typically call turtles are animals that are aquatic or semi-aquatic, which means that they spend some of their time in the land or on land and some of their time in water. They spend most of their time in the water. And so most of the turtles that we see in Michigan, and also, of course, sea turtles that we have out in the oceans all around the world would be aquatic turtles because we tend to see them in ponds and lakes and streams. So I actually have a visual aid right here. I have my Turtles of Michigan poster from the DNR, which is really, really fantastic. If you haven't seen these posters before, the DNR has created some really great informational posters all about turtles of Michigan. There's one about frogs of Michigan, salamanders of Michigan. But this poster shows all the different types of turtles that we can find in Michigan. And you'll see that most of these pictures, you can see them, show these turtles living in the water. They're all kind of swimming around. But there is one type of turtle on here, down at the bottom of the poster here. And you can see that this is a type of turtle, but in this picture, this turtle is walking around on a bunch of leaves. So this type of turtle is actually a terrestrial turtle. So the idea that turtles spend most of their time in the water and that tortoises spend most of their time on land is usually true, but not always. The type of turtle that we have here, this terrestrial turtle, is a really, really cool turtle that we have here in Michigan, and it's called a box turtle. And I actually have a specimen of a box turtle that we can look at right here. So this is a box turtle shell. I've got the top of the shell right here and also the bottom. The bottom of the shell is called the plastron, in case you're looking for some science words. We can see inside this turtle shell, it is the same situation as our red-eared slider. This turtle shell is a modified rib cage. You can see that it's got the spine running right along here. All of the ribs come out on the sides, form this whole huge shell. But the cool thing about box turtles is that most turtles, when they're going inside their shell, they can squeeze inside, but they aren't able to fully close their shell, right? So I've got a red-eared slider shell right here where we can see the top of the shell and the bottom. And you can see that it's almost like a little bit of a tunnel. So the turtle could tuck itself inside, the turtle's head would be able to go in here, the tail could go in the back, but it's still kind of open on the edges, right? The legs are tucked in, but they're not all the way in. But a box turtle is pretty unique because it's able to actually fully close its shell like a box. So when the box turtle wants to hide inside its shell, it's actually the door. And this is really useful if the box turtle is trying to protect itself from predators or just trying to hide away for a little bit. So box turtles, super cool turtles that we have here in Michigan. There's one more Michigan turtle I want to talk about, and then we will look at some sea turtle information. And that turtle is going to be a snapping turtle. Now, you probably have seen snapping turtles in Michigan if you've spent any time near the water. I know that I've been going out near the water a little bit more as it's been getting warmer, and I haven't seen a snapping turtle yet, but I've heard a lot of people talk about snapping turtles. And this is an alligator snapping turtle, which we do not have in Michigan. The snapping turtle that we have in Michigan, I believe, is the common snapping turtle. But alligator snapping turtles are related to common snapping turtles, and they're really, really cool. This is a model of one, but I have a skull of an alligator snapping turtle. And you can see just how big these animals can get. They can get absolutely massive. And snapping turtles are really, really cool. They have this sharp beak up front that they use to eat their prey. And so what these animals will do is that they will hunker down, usually at the bottom of a lake or a river, and they will open up their mouth ever so slightly. And these snapping turtles actually have a tongue that comes out right here. Same as us, we have a tongue that comes out right here as well. But their tongue is specialized to look like a worm. So they sit here with their jaws wide open, their tongues stick out, it wiggles a little bit like a worm. And an unsuspecting fish is gonna swim along and see this worm and try and take a bite. And when that fish comes into its mouth to try and eat that worm, the snapping turtle, of course, gets a meal instead. The snapping turtle's beak is super, super strong. It could definitely take off somebody's finger. So definitely do not go investigate any worms that you happen to see at the bottom of the lake because they could be a snapping turtle tongue, especially if you're a fish. But yeah, so that's just some of the turtles that we have here in Michigan, some of their relatives. But of course, today is World Sea Turtle Day. So we're also going to talk a little bit about sea turtles. And we're going to do that using Science on a Sphere, which is actually right in front of me. So I'm going to flip my camera around and show you all Science on a Sphere. All right, let's flip the camera around. There we go. So Science on a Sphere is a really cool device that we have here at the museum. It was developed by NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And Science on a Sphere is a really great way to look at all sorts of different global data sets. So we can use Science on a Sphere to look at weather happening all over the globe. We can use it to look at climate change. We can use it to look at all sorts of different stuff. But today we're going to use it to look at sea turtles. So I already have a data set up on the sphere right now. You can probably see that there's a big colorful bar that's running all the way across the globe. This is looking at the Pacific Ocean. And on that colorful bar, there are all sorts of turtles swimming. So I'm going to move the sphere around just so you guys can orient yourselves. So right now we're looking at sort of Asia and Australia and some of the South Pacific. And then as we rotate along, you'll see we're going across the Pacific. Hawaii is right in the middle of the sphere now. And then as we go across, we get over to North America and South America. So this data set that is looking at mapping sea turtles and mapping their routes is really, really cool. This is data that was collected between 1997 and 2006, almost 10 years worth of data. And this data was collected by scientists attaching something called satellite transmitting tags onto the backs of the turtles. And attaching these tags is really important for the scientists to learn information about where turtles go. And that makes sense, right? If these turtles are aquatic, it means they're going to be spending most of their time in the water. And we usually only see sea turtles when they come up on the land, when they come on the land to lay their eggs. So we're used to seeing videos of sea turtles coming up on the beach, but turtles spend most of their time in the water, and the ocean is gigantic, especially the Pacific Ocean. So it's really important for scientists to learn where turtles spend most of their time. And this data set shows us that. This is really, really cool because as you can see, probably right now actually, the colors in this colorful bar are kind of moving and changing around. And the colors represent the temperature of the ocean at different points. So you can see here that right now there's a huge orange section of the ocean. That's the really warm part of the ocean right now in the area that they're mapping. This is surface temperature. You can see the turtles tend to spend their time in the green band, which is sort of warm-ish water. It's kind of medium temperature water. And then there's also the dark water up them, and that's their water. And so you'll notice that that green band in the middle actually moves north and south depending on the time of year. So we're looking at August, September right now, and that green band is almost all the way at the top of our span. But as we start getting further and further into the year, we're in December, January, going into February, we'll see that that green band actually gets lower and lower south. And we can see that the turtles are just always staying directly in that path because the turtles like to stay at a certain temperature. This temperature also reflects some of the ocean currents that are going through the area. Ocean currents are just made by changing water temperatures. So it makes sense that the turtles are using those currents to move around the ocean, that they would stay where the currents are. The other cool thing about this data set is that I'm gonna be able to zoom in a little bit so we can see a little bit better. But we can see that these turtles are all different sizes as well. There's some turtles that are really large and there's some turtles that are really small. And these turtle sizes actually reflect the sizes of the turtles. So the larger turtles are the largest ones, the smallest turtles are the smaller ones. So it's cool to see that these turtles will move constantly back and forth over time. Of course, there are sometimes turtles that will get a little bit lost. They'll go a little bit off the beaten path. So if we move over here into Asia and kind of the Australasia, South Pacific area, we're gonna start to see this one turtle that is sort of stuck between these two islands, between the island and the mainland. And eventually this turtle is gonna start drifting further and further south because sometimes turtles lose their way a little bit. And unfortunately, we did lose track of this turtle. We don't know quite what happened, but probably what happened is that the turtle got eaten by something, which is why the tracker lost its information. So it's interesting looking at these global stories, looking at sea turtles, and sometimes we can also see the story of an individual turtle. And we actually can see the story of an individual turtle really well looking at another data set here on the sphere. And that's going to be looking at the sea turtle tracks in the Atlantic Ocean. So I'm going to move the sphere around. We're looking again still at the Pacific Ocean right now. So we're going to switch over to the Atlantic. And we're going to see that we've got a sea turtle that's moving right here along the east coast of the United States and moving out into the Atlantic Ocean. You can see the sea turtle kind of moving along there a little bit. And this is a very specific sea turtle, and this sea turtle is named Delta. And this turtle began being tracked in the year 2004. It's a loggerhead sea turtle, and it was found stranded off of Deltaville, Virginia, along the Chesapeake Bay. She had a broken left flipper and a severe head injury, most likely from a collision with a boat propeller. And so Delta was brought to the Virginia Aquarium Stranding Program for rehabilitation. So it took many months, but they eventually had her fully recovered. She had a head surgery, but she was eventually released in November of 2004. And before they released her, because scientists are very interested in knowing what turtles do, they attached one of these satellite tags to Delta just to measure her success and her recovery. So Delta was released and tracked for 9 months after that release until August 6th of 2005. And it's really interesting that, these humans had this interaction with Delta in the Chesapeake Bay, and almost immediately, Delta swam out as far as she could and connected with the Gulf Stream. And she was eventually transported north off of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. And then she appeared to kind of wander around for a while in the Atlantic Ocean before eventually turning back toward the United States. And Delta made it all the way to Bermuda when the tags finally stopped transmitting. And it's not thought that anything bad happened to Delta. What's thought is probably the batteries on the transmitter ran out. So this is just another example that shows that these sea turtles that we might just see, on the beach along, for a tiny part of their lives, actually have these huge journeys that they take. And our interactions with sea turtles, even though they seem small in the time, are only a small part of the turtle's entire life. So I'm going to flip my camera around just so we can look back at each other again. So sea turtles are really amazing animals. We're able to see just from these couple of data sets, just really amazing paths that these turtles take, swimming thousands of miles across the ocean. But unfortunately, like many animals, these sea turtles do need our help. If you live near the ocean, which some of you watching might live near the ocean, there's a lot that you can do to help turtles directly. You can, of course, fight for the protection of the sea turtle nesting grounds. You can, of course, fight for them in the ocean. You can stop VanAcker, for instance, which can impact sea turtles like Delta, for instance, who were hit in a propeller collision. But there's also a lot of things you can do to help turtles right here in Michigan. Both sea turtles and our native turtles. One of the best ones is just awareness. So being aware of some of the issues that face turtles and trying to fight those issues. One thing that I try to do, and that is actually pretty easy to do once you start thinking about it, is limiting your use of single-use plastics. Some of you might have seen videos that went around, it's probably a couple of years ago now, of sea turtles that had those plastic drinking straws stuck in their noses. And of course, straws are an issue, and a lot of people kind of banded together to stop using plastic drinking straws, which is fantastic. But any single-use plastic is going to be an issue, not only for turtles, but for wildlife all over the place. And single-use plastic is just plastic that you only use once and then throw away. So trying to limit that type of plastic, either by using reusable containers, using reusable bags, or just reusing the plastic that you buy over and over again, and then eventually recycling it, is going to be a way that you can definitely help wildlife. Another thing you can do is not allowing hazardous chemicals into our waterways. Waterways are, of course, all connected. So even if you were to dump something in a river here right in Lansing, that would eventually make its way to the Great Lakes and eventually out to the ocean over a long period of time. So trying to stop things like that from happening can be very beneficial for sea turtles, for our local turtles, for wildlife in Michigan, wildlife all over the world, and of course, for humans as well. It's okay to be a little bit selfish. Yeah, so that is our program for World Sea Turtle Day. We talked all about sea turtles. We talked about some Michigan turtles. We looked at some cool specimens. But now I want to open it up to you guys. So if anyone has any questions about what we talked about in the program, or any other questions that I can answer, I'm happy to answer those for you. But if you want to jump off of this time, I hope that you had a great day. I hope you had a great time learning about some sea turtles. And all of these data sets are available to look at the website sos.noaa.gov. Which is the Science on a Sphere website. And you can play with these data sets yourself and look at the story of Delta and those sea turtles in the Pacific, as well as some other sea turtle data sets that are really cool. So I hope that you do that. But otherwise, I'm happy to take any questions. Stephanie, have you seen any questions pop up? I know we're streaming on Zoom. We're also streaming on Facebook. So I don't know if anything has popped up over there. All right. Oh, thank you. Got a comment that said, thank you for the talk. Yeah, it was fantastic. We are going to be doing more of these programs throughout the summer as well. We have previously recorded ones on our website, which is museum.msu.edu, but we're going to be doing 2 more programs throughout the summer. In August, we are going to be doing World Mosquito Day. We're going to be talking all about those little backyard biters that love to suck our blood. And actually, I do not recall what the topic is for July. So Stephanie, do you recall what the topic is for July? It's another World Animal Day, but I don't remember which one it is that we're doing. But it's guaranteed to be a good time. We really love talking about animals on the sphere and using some of our specimens to talk about those animals. So it should be really, really fun. And all the information for that is available on our website as well at museum.msu.edu. So you can feel free to check that out. Shark Awareness Day. Thank you, Stephanie. We're doing Shark Awareness Day on July 14th. So we'll have some shark specimens and we'll be looking at some shark tracks on the sphere as well. Talking about human-shark interactions. It should be really fun. Awesome. Well, if we don't have any other questions, you can feel free to reach out to us on the website if you do have any questions that come up. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed talking with you all about Michigan turtles and sea turtles. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. All right.